Okay, so welcome. We have a little bit of IT challenge, and now echo that I hope will go away. This is Thursday, March 26th, 2026, and it's Senate institutions. We had two things on our agenda. We're just going to do the first one, which is to have a walkthrough on H559 and act relating to the parole board. And good timing.
Well done. Here first.
Yes, please, if that's okay with.
Yeah, it's fine. Do you have the bill on you? If not, it's one. There we go. I'll give it back to you.
Okay. So we have Representative Will Freer, who is the reporter of the bill, and I think you know everybody.
Yes, hi everyone. Let's see. Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you want me to walk through section by section or just give?
You could just give us a general introduction.
Yeah, so I think Hillary will do a better job of going line by line, but pretty much the logistics of the parole board bill is where we made additional requirements for training and trying to beef that up essentially. We have some appropriations in here that we were able to figure out from our end. Most of it's carried forward from the previous fiscal year. And then I'm trying to remember the $25,000. I'm sorry, we were doing capital bill, so I'm kind of like in different worlds right now. But we also had $25,000 that we used for pretrial funding as well, because we're going to pivot from that slightly and not do what the governor's recommend was entirely. So that's where the 75,000 comes from. I'm trying to just make sure I feel like that's we did make changes to the composition of the board. We took away the two alternate positions and we turned them into full board members. That's not going to change the way their assignments are done. So the 7 members will still do an equal rotation, but since they kind of all do the work, we're just clarifying that. And let's see, we did put some additional language in there around the pilot project as well, which that's where the funding mainly is related to. But again, just trying to get that training and get them to have some independent legal counsel services. So that I think pretty much sums it.
Okay.
Hillary, do you want to jump in now or?
Well, she will. So
okay. Yeah,
let's see if we have any questions.
Yeah, I can do my best.
Hi, Will. Good to see you. My only question is, where did the idea for this come from to begin with? Was it from the parole board? Was it from constituent? Was it from a member?
Yeah. So Representative Evans did introduce the bill. I believe it was in consultation with the parole board over the summer and fall months. I'm not quite certain if I got that accurate, but
that answers my question.
Yes.
Okay. And you all worked with the parole board.
Yes, we did. Mary Jane was there with us throughout it all.
Okay. Terrific. Well, thank you. Are there any other questions? So, yes, please finish your work on the Capitol building.
Yes, well, we just finished, so that's why I was like, we wrapped it up. Yes, and we'll send it on over to you guys. I'll stay just to be here to answer any questions, but I felt like that was a pretty brief summary. I know time is precious.
That's exactly what we need. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Perfect. I'm still a building.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
All right. For the record, Hillary Cheddar Ames, the Office of Legislative Counsel, and I have permission to speak for you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, we have H559 as passed by the House. As Representative Greer mentioned, this bill does 4 main things: make some changes relating to improving the training of the parole board. It makes some changes related to the composition of the board and how they're selected. It creates a pilot project for external legal counsel for the parole board. And it adds some process and reporting requirements related to parole board budgeting in the next 2 fiscal years. So those are kind of 4 main things to look out for, but I'll go ahead and walk through each section of the bill. So the first changes in section 1. This is a section entitled 28 that outlines several responsibilities of the corrections commissioner relating to parole. This adds a subdivision 6 regarding training. So you'll see in the rest of the bill that it provides for expanded training for the parole board. this ensures that the responsibility for providing the training is listed in the commissioner's responsibilities. Note that it's done in collaboration with the parole board director and the chair of the parole board. I think as you'll see and hear, there's some tensions in that the parole board is an independent entity making decisions about parole, but their budget is within DOC, and in terms of the statutes, they are in Title 28. So there's some interaction with DOC there.
May I ask just,
Yes, of course.
so the commissioner in this case?
DOC commissioner, corrections. Yes. And the training will be related to relevant topics for the parole board. So criminogenic behavior, mental health disorders, substance use treatment, trauma-informed work with victims of crime, and serious crime rehabilitation. Moving forward to section 2, this section covers the composition of the board. So there are a couple changes that H559 was made. As Will mentioned, currently there are 5 regular members and 2 alternate members of the parole board. This changes that to 7 regular members to reflect how the parole board actually works, as I understand it, and that it will kind of regularly rotate through all of those members. No changes to their terms. In subdivision 2, this is page 2, lines 3 through 10. There are a few changes made regarding appointment of parole board members. So it does not change the fact that, as under current law, the governor appoints parole board members, but it does provide that when the governor is notified of a vacancy, the governor shall consult with the parole board director and the chair of the parole board. The idea being to get an understanding of what kinds of knowledge or experience might be needed now that someone is leaving the board. So it also adds language on lines 9 through 10 that as far as practicable, the governor shall appoint as members persons with knowledge of these relevant topics: criminogenic behavior, mental health treatment, substance use disorder, or serious crime rehabilitation, and shall give consideration as far as practicable to geographic representation of the state and a balance of different knowledge and experience. So the governor's already required to consider geographic diversity. This would add a kind of knowledge and experience diversity consideration. And the changes on lines 6 through 7, or I guess 6 through 8, are just updating the language that we use currently regarding these kinds of topics. So not intended to be a particularly substantive change, just updating language.
Okay.
Any changes about that before I move forward?
Any questions? Yeah.
So, it's gonna be 7 regular members
Yes,
from now on. Right now, there are 5 members and 2 alternates.
correct.
Is there a provision for 2 alternates to be appointed as members?
Interesting. We did not discuss that, so I'm happy to look into that. I know we're sensitive about time or
No,
just the time this afternoon,
I
but
don't know. It was a perfectly good answer.
we also have the director of the parole board here, who may also be able to answer that. So, I look into it, but it may involve asking Mary Jane right after this. Moving forward, the changes in subdivision 3, so this is page 2, lines 14 through 17. This is just removing language about assignment of alternates. So now that the statute is only talking about regular members, we don't need this other language about how alternates are assigned. The final substantive change in this section, in section 2, is on page 3, lines 7 through 9. This adds subsection D, and now we're at trainings. So at least annually, each member of the parole board shall attend trainings designated by the parole board director in collaboration with the chair of the parole board.
Can we go back just a little?
Yes.
Line 18 on second page. For
Yeah.
quorum, wouldn't it be 4?
So, the way that statutes currently work is that 1 VSA 172 sets the default of a quorum, but a statute can provide otherwise. So 1 VSA 172 says, like, unless otherwise provided by law, a quorum shall be, I think it's the majority of the members,
Right.
but because this section already sets 3 members is quorum. This does not change that. Certainly a policy decision about what quorum should be for the parole board. I think Will can speak to what House Corrections thought about this. But I think there was some discussion about how it would impact how many board members have to be present at hearings and what implications that would have. For
Okay, so we can ask that when we come back to this.
Yeah, and I think you did.
So we don't rush over.
Yep.
Rush. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions about that parole board composition section before we move forward? So that's section 2. All right. Moving forward, section 3. This section discusses the parole board director position. And the changes start on page 3 of line 20. This adds some language about what the parole board director will be responsible for. So this includes the overall function of the parole board, ensuring legal compliance, developing and implementing all policies and procedures, and developing and providing training to the parole board, which the director will do in collaboration with the DOC commissioner and the chair of the parole board. So again, that kind of first of the 4 buckets of things that this bill would do. This is pertaining to training and other responsibilities of the parole board director.
Okay.
All right. Section 4, this is page 4, lines 4 through 21. This creates the parole board legal counsel pilot project. I expect that committee will hear more testimony about the current setup for the parole board in that they do not have their own counsel. So there was a lot of discussion in House Corrections about what was currently available to the parole board and what they might need to effectively function. And the result was creating a pilot project to bid for external legal support. So explaining this probably does take more than our 20 minutes for the bill, but I will just flag that there is more there. This was the result.
Okay, so we have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the previous section,
Yes.
and it basically says that the director is responsible for developing and providing the training. And I guess my question is about providing. That means it's limited to the director has got to provide the training to the board as opposed to overseeing or developing. And so I'm just concerned about the word providing.
Yes, I think the intent, as you flagged, was kind of ensure will be provided or overseeing. So certainly something for the committee to consider whether as currently drafted, it accurately captures that. Because I think you're certainly correct that the intent was director is ensuring that it will be provided, but not necessarily
Actually doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point.
Great.
Yes, I don't mean to move too quickly through. I'm just mindful of time. So returning to section 4, the external counsel would do 2 things. They would provide annual training to the board, including on topics related to due process and parole violations. And they would also be available as needed to provide legal advice to the board related to board hearings. Subsection B, this is lines 10 through 12. This reflects something that the Attorney General's office has to do by regulation. If there are external bids for legal counsel, Attorney General's office is involved in making that happen, but subsection B just specifies that the Attorney General's office will coordinate with AHS and the parole board to identify and contract with external legal support. Subsection C describes kind of an evaluation, and subsection D describes a report back regarding this external legal counsel pilot project. So as part of the fiscal year 2028 budget development process, AHS, DOC, and the parole board director will coordinate to evaluate the pilot project and determine resources needed for board external legal support for fiscal year 2028. And by November 15th of this year, the parole board director will report back to the House Committee on Corrections and Institutions and I suspect at this point we should add the institution committee.
I noticed that my.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah.
Easy to add, detailing the operation of the pilot project. I think at the time this was drafted, the committee was waiting to confirm which committee this might be coming to. So, not an intentional slight in any way, but easy to amend. And the report shall include a recommendation regarding legal support for the board going forward and the resources needed. So this is a way to say for fiscal year 2027, here's a way to get external legal support for the parole board. And here are the processes to include it in the fiscal year 28 DOC budget, and to report back about how this should be handled going forward. I'm sure there are questions about this. I think more explanation forthcoming in further testimony, I suspect, but any kind of initial questions, at least about the way the bill sets this out.
So just some questions that I will have are what were the issues that caused this? Yeah, just I've been involved with trying to have an attorney for a state subset of the state, and it took a long time to get an attorney through the AG's office. So that's something that's tangential, but that process exists. And I do just happen to have some concerns about it, but I'm sure we'll have a few questions, but this is good. Does anyone have anything right now?
The court tension is,
or just to flag out a question. Yeah.
The court tension explained in testimony was that DOC parole officers are appearing before the board, which is supposed to be an independent quasi-judicial entity. The associate attorneys general who are providing services to DOC would run into conflict issues if they were also providing advice to the parole boards. There's kind of conflict tension there, but I will leave it for further testimony.
Okay.
Explain that.
That's good to know. Okay.
Moving forward to section 5. So this is page 5, lines 1 through 6. This section 5 and section 6 are both about how this external legal counsel pilot project will be funded for fiscal year 2027. As Will mentioned, there's a $25,000 carry forward that DOC had designated for parole board legal services in the fiscal year 2026 budget. That went out to bid and was not successful, but it remains there. So that will carry forward for the external legal counsel pilot project for fiscal year 2027. And then section 6 is appropriating an additional $50,000. So it will be a total of $75,000 available for this external legal counsel pilot project. And as Will mentioned, as the bill is drafted, a general fund placeholder, because at the time House Corrections was passing this out, it had not been confirmed where this money was coming from. I think as Representative Greer indicated, there is a large amount of money for pretrial supervision, some of which will be repurposed for this pilot project.
Say that last thing again, please.
Oh,
So
go ahead. Well, just that the pretrial funding that the governor put in his recommended was about $1.5 million. House Corrections and Institutions, House Judiciary, we've reviewed the pretrial program. We do not want to commit that level of funding to pretrial. So that's where we got that 50,000 from. And I'm trying to remember what the amount is. I don't think you're in the room on this, but we did reduce that amount quite substantially. So that's separate from this bill, but that's where that 50,000 appropriations.
And is that pretrial, is that the kind of experiment that's happening in Burlington?
So there are two experiments, or there are two things happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
One is an accountability docket pilot project that was started in Chittenden and is now
Okay, so that's
to
the one I'm
Rutland.
thinking.
That's the accountability docket that is separate from the pretrial supervision program, which was created by statute in 2024. So still a new program, was initially set to run as a pilot in Essex and Orleans counties, but was then run in Chittenden instead. For whatever other reasons, which is part of the confusion between that and the accountability docket. They serve different purposes, is the short answer. The accountability docket is intended to reduce backlog and provide wraparound services for individuals who are continually getting violations of release or other issues. But it's different than pretrial supervision, which can be ordered as a condition of release separately.
Okay,
Kind of short answer. I think Representative Greer and I can talk about the best way if the committee just wants some context for other things coming before it about what is happening with those two things.
right.
I think there are ongoing discussions about how they're being prioritized and funded, including this morning in House Judiciary. So perhaps after this week, we can see where that stands and then provide a report back to the committee about that plan.
Great, and let us know who to talk to also. I mean, we'll hear from you, but also others probably.
Yeah. There is an amendment to the miscellaneous judiciary bill that is covering expanding the accountability docket. As I understand it, there are no changes being made to the statute relating to pretrial supervision. It will just be a matter of how much money originally designated for pretrial supervision is in fact going to pretrial supervision. It's going to be a much smaller amount. And some of that money is, I think, going towards accountability docket expansion, and 50,000 of it will be going toward the Parole Board External Legal Counsel pilot project. But
And that's in process, that bill?
Miscellaneous judiciary, that amendment is in the works today. I don't have the latest on whether it's
Okay.
going on the floor tomorrow or early next week.
Okay,
But that's,
it's getting close, it sounds like.
yes,
Okay.
movement towards resolution, I believe.
Okay. Terrific. All right, well, this has been really helpful. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, so,
You have one other subsection to go over.
Yes, two quick
I'm
sections.
sorry,
are-
I'm sorry.
It's not a problem. The last couple sections.
Thank you.
have
I
some-
was like,
Yeah.
paying attention here.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes, I would. Okay.
I'll be back.
So section 7 is
Yeah,
where we're.
Section 7, as mentioned, the parole board is an independent entity, but its budget is within the Department of Corrections budget. Previously, the parole board has not submitted a version of their budget to DOC. DOC submits its budget. So Section 7 would, or provides some structure relating to that process for fiscal year 2028 and 2029. So as part of those fiscal year budget development processes, the parole board director shall submit a proposed budget to DOC and AHS. And then on or before December 15th, 2027, the parole board director will report back to the House Committee on Corrections and Institutions, and I will add verbally, and the Senate Institutions Committee, detailing the budget development process. The report shall include a recommendation regarding the parole board submitting an annual budget to DOC. So the idea is, let the parole board director submit a proposed budget to DOC and AHS for the next 2 years, and then come back to the legislature and indicate how that process has worked, what process should happen going forward, and whether there are any changes to make in statute. I think there was some discussion of whether the parole board director should, or whether the parole board should be submitting its own budget line item that has bigger implications. And so I think the discussion in House Corrections was not to take that step this year, but this Section 7 would provide a structure and a report back in the next 2 years, so that if there's interest and if that's the recommendation, that the legislature could do that in future sessions.
So I do have a question then.
Yes.
Just line 17, that the December 2027, that is before they do the other two. Is that intentional?
So I think the hope is that that is mid-development of, because 2026, they're going to be developing the fiscal year 28 budget, right? Right. So for 2027, at least DOC and AHS should have completed or will have completed their budget development process for fiscal year 2029. So I think that the December 2027 date is intended to fall after the two budget development processes from the AHS and DOC perspective, and also provide a couple weeks before bill requests are due, so that if there is a bill request coming out of this, there's a little bit of time to do that.
Okay, okay, that's helpful. Because some of our I mean, this year, the bill requests were for that, so. But we'll talk.
I think that was the intent, and if there was a
Okay.
better date to pick,
Yeah.
I don't think there was magic to that particular date. I think those were the two things that House Corrections was thinking about.
Okay,
Both, will these two budget development processes have been substantially completed, so that there's a recommendation coming out of it, and just keeping an eye on when bills might be due, if there's something, some action for the legislature to take after those reports.
okay,
All right, section 8, effective date, July 1st, 2026.
okay, and now we are done with it.
Sure are.
Okay. So thank you very much. Anybody have any other questions?
No,
Okay, but thanks for waiting for us. Appreciate
No
that.
problem.
And this is good. We'll see you soon. And we are adjourned.